Good evening, patriots and liberals. This is Spencer with the MCGA channel on YouTube. Today, we're going to touch on a very controversial subject. However, I don't care that it's controversial. It is very important. There are millions of Canadians in poverty in Canada. There are hundreds of thousands of veterans in Canada that are in poverty, hundreds of thousands of seniors that are in poverty. And what do we do here in Canada? We give our money away to people who have done nothing for the country. I don't care what your opinion is on refugees and asylum claimants. I personally don't think when your house is a mess, you go across the street to your neighbors and clean theirs. It makes absolutely no sense. You should not focus a single penny on any person who is in Canada who is not Canadian. When, especially, we have, again, millions in poverty, 2 million Canadians going to food banks on a monthly basis, and an epidemic of homelessness that I've never seen in my short time on planet Earth, and that you, who are much older than me, have not seen either. But again, we live in clown world because we live in Canada. And this terrible country, run by awful people, gives our money away and flips you the bird while you suffer. So, for the folks that don't know already, right now, Canada, through several different institutions run by the Canadian government, gives approximately $7,000 to $8,000 a month to refugees. That's right, $7,000 to $8,000 a month. That is a higher amount of money than most Canadians get on an annual basis from working. And those people that work who are taxed to death get those taxes siphoned and have them given to refugees because fuck you. That's why. Anyway, the reason that I'm making this video today is not only to remind folks about the amount that we pay, but I have discovered an app that I believe is probably the most insulting thing in Canada today. That app is called Canoo. We're going to dive into that shortly, but before we do, let's just remind the folks at home and the people who don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the $7,000 to $8,000 a month that refugees are getting. So I'm going to read this here. This is from the Government of Canada, funny enough, from Paul Chang, but this states that claimants in the IRCC, which is for refugees and citizenship, those folks get $140 per night for hotel rooms, and they also get an additional $84 a day in food. On top of that, which I will show you shortly, they as well, of course, are receiving additional benefits that bring them up to that total of $7,000 to $8,000 a month. Absolutely disgusting. Now, let's go to another piece of evidence for this. This is actually a letter. This is from a lawyer, and this was leaked. And this states, under the RAP program, which is the Resettlement Assistance Program for Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada, again, the IRCC. Under the RAP, the clients receive a monthly allowance of $1,899 to supplement their income. Clients are also entitled to a monthly earning of $900 under the Employment Incentive Policy of the RAP program. They can also get child tax benefit at approximately $1,800 a month. So the client is as well eligible up to a $500 monthly allowance, and RAP housing top up is what that $500 is. So the family also gets a startup allowance of $8,326. Okay? You get $8,326 plus the additional $1,899, the additional $1,000, the additional $1,800, and the additional $500 on top of your hotels and your food stipend. So between the hotel, food stipend, the allowance that you get given, a startup of $8,300, folks are getting quite literally about $80,000 a year for doing nothing in the country, just showing up here and bringing their problems. And again, that might sound harsh, but I don't care. It doesn't matter. The only people we should be concerned about in Canada are Canadians. Yes, you can have a bleeding heart. Yes, there's issues all over the world. Yes, there's wars, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't matter. If your house, imagine your house is messy, okay? What would you do? What do you think the appropriate step is? Do you think the appropriate step is to clean your home and then perhaps help somebody else? Or do you think the appropriate step is to leave the home and go help other people while your house is messy? Again, an analogy, but you got to be pretty brain dead to not get it. Anyway, I just want to remind folks of something that is very important, because the poverty in Canada is absolutely insane. Let's go through the numbers. Veterans in poverty in Canada. So there are a total of 461,240 veterans. Of those, there's 176,484 who are in poverty. That means 38% of all veterans in Canada are in poverty. It is absolutely disgusting that 40% nearly of the men and women who fought and gave their lives for this country are impoverished when we're giving the numbers to refugees that I just showed you. It does not compute. It is illogical. It is a middle finger to you, especially to our veterans. But let's talk about homelessness. About 10,000, as far as we know from last estimates, 10,000 veterans are homeless. So that accounts for 2% of the veteran population. So 2% of folks who fought for this country get to live on the street, while we're giving $8,300 as a allowance plus to refugees in Canada. Absolutely disgusting. But before we go and move on from the veterans, I would just like to remind folks what the Prime Minister of Canada had to say to a veteran when asked about assistance.
Again, my question is, what veterans were you talking about? Was it the ones that fought for the freedoms and values that you so proudly boast about, or was it the ones who fought against? Because honestly, Mr. Prime Minister, I was prepared to be injured in the line of duty when I joined the military. Nobody forced me to join the military. I was prepared to be killed in action. What I wasn't prepared for, Mr. Prime Minister, is Canada turning its back on me.
Why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now.
One more time.
Fighting against certain veterans groups in court because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now.
From the pathetic horse's mouth himself, you're asking for more than we're able to give right now. That should have caused a revolution. But everyone in Canada is weak. Anyway, remember, 80 grand a year for refugees. And the veterans are asking for more than we can give. It's absolutely disgusting. Nonetheless, let's get deeper into poverty in Canada. So, for seniors, non-veterans, about 7 million seniors live in Canada as of 2021. Obviously, the numbers have changed. Seniors in poverty at that time, 430,000. So bear in mind, 2021 is the last estimates that we're getting from census. These numbers are going to be much worse when we get the next census. But 430,000 seniors are living in poverty, so 6%. So 6% of the people who worked and built this country are living in poverty. When, again, we are giving nearly 8 grand a month to refugees. Absolutely disgusting. And by the way, there's about 14,000 homeless seniors. So roughly 0.2% of the senior population is homeless. Again, a small number because of how many people are seniors, but a disgusting number when given what we're doing here in Canada with our tax dollars. Let's move on to the total population poverty. So for the record, at least last time, again, 2021, there was 38.9 million. We know that number is much higher now. And of those, there was 2.7 million Canadians living in poverty. 7% of the population. Again, we know that that number is much higher now. And with the homelessness, about 300,000 people were homeless at that time. Again, knowing that number is definitely higher. And that represents about 1% of the population. So you got 1% of the population being homeless, about 7% of them being impoverished. You've got literally 6% of all seniors being in poverty. And then you've got 38% of all veterans being in poverty. But again, don't forget, Canadians, you are asking for too much. Now, let's move on to the refugees here in Canada before we dive into the Canoo app, which will make you puke in your mouth, and it should. So, as of 2023, again, these numbers are much worse, but there was 154,520 refugees plus an additional 146,800 asylum seekers. There was as well 3 million non-citizens in Canada. That means, for the record, about 7% of all people in this country aren't Canadian citizens. Let that settle in. But again, we've got 300,000 people in this country who are refugees or asylum seekers. And you know what's very interesting? The amount of people who are on this Canoo app, which is only open to refugees and asylum seekers. There's 750,000 people registered on this app. So how is that possible? You have 750,000 people on that app, and we've got half that amount that are registered as refugees. Well, it's likely the case that there's a whole bunch of fraud going on, but as well, which is as well evident anywhere you go, we probably have over 1 million refugees here in Canada, which is fantastic. Now, don't take my word for it as far as costs are concerned. Let's go to the head of the IRCC when he was in committee and she was in committee, and we will see what they had to say about the amount of money that we spend on these refugees and asylum seekers.
And I want to understand exactly what benefits asylum seekers get. So if an asylum claimant arrives at the Montreal airport, will IRCC pay them for a hotel?
Deputy Minister.
So, Chair, the way the asylum system works is that as soon as there is a claim on asylum, it is assessed by CPSA or IRCC, depending upon where the claim is, and accordingly established as basis of claim.
So the hotel is covered then? Is that what you're saying? Once the claim has been applied, once they've applied?
So if there is in Montreal, I'm just giving you a full answer about this. If there is in Quebec, there is a possibility that Prada will probably house up to 1,150, and if there is an overflow, we will house them in the hotel.
Do they receive a food allowance?
I think, Su Young, if you can.
Yeah, thank you. So it is not an automatic allowance that asylum claimants would get just because you are an asylum claimant. There's the right to claim asylum, and then they would have to identify whether or not they need shelter. And as part of that, if they end up in an IRCC hotel, then there would be food.
Okay, so they can get food. What about transportation? Is there furniture? Is there household items allowance as well?
No, that would not be covered because they are in the hotels, so there's no furniture that would be required.
Are asylum claimants eligible for, Deputy Minister, for health benefits?
Deputy Minister.
Yes, the asylum claimants are eligible for the first 3 months as for the interim federal health program, and then it is determined whether the provinces will further give them the necessary coverage.
So does that cover things? Obviously, covers primary health care. Does it cover things like glasses, dental work, that sort of thing?
It has a very specific primary care component. It does not have, I don't have the details on hand, Chair, which I can say that it is true that.
So you've heard it from the Canadian government. Not only are they getting their food, not only are they getting their shelter, but they're also getting provided transportation and healthcare, like pharmaceuticals, dental, and eyeglasses, things that Canadians have to pay for. There are Canadians who can't afford heart medication, but if you're a bloody refugee, you get everything paid for. Again, this isn't a knock on the refugees. This is a knock on the government. The government is facilitating this. I have no ill will to refugees unless they commit crimes in this country, and then I don't think they should spend an additional second on our soil. But beyond the fact that we shouldn't have any more people coming into this country because we can't even feed and house the ones that we've got, we are giving millions, actually, in fact, $1.2 billion annually to refugees and asylum claimants. It is absolutely disgusting, and again, should cause a revolution. Wake up, Canada. What the hell are you doing? Nonetheless, let's get into the subject of today's video, the Canoo app. The Canoo app is just another icing on the cake, another bit of salt on the wound, a final middle finger to the Canadian people. The Canoo app, which is used by 750,000 refugees and asylum claimants in Canada, is an app that the IRCC, through the ICC, the Institute for Canadian Citizenship, a BS, absolute front for money laundering as well, which is just simply a nonprofit where liberal cronies get over $200,000 to $300,000 a year to do absolutely F all beyond waste our money and give it to non-Canadians. But that aside, the Canoo app is an app only available to, again, refugees and asylum claimants. And what does it allow them to do? It allows them to go to our parks, to our venues, to our historical places, and to receive literally money off of trains and planes in Canada, off of food, everything. If you are a refugee in Canada, this is your one-stop app to rip off the Canadian taxpayer. Let me go through the specific benefits. So it gives free entry to 2,000 plus venues, museums, science centers, art galleries, national provincial parks, and historic sites, which you as a Canadian don't get. And then you also get free admission for up to 4 children under the age of 18 per member. On top of that, you get free/discounted tickets to sports, concerts, film festivals, performing arts, and cultural festivals, which is insane. On top of that, you get exclusive discounts from brands. This is the most screwed up that I could ever imagine. You get 50% off of Via Rail travel. 50% off of Via Rail travel. So if you, as a non-Canadian, want to take your family that is getting paid for by the Canadian government to the tune of $8,000 a month to a national park or historic site, you get to then, with that free money that you get a 50% off discount on travel to get to that place to stay there for free. And then Canadian citizens get the middle finger. You get told to go screw yourself. It is absolutely asinine. But it gets worse. You also get 15% off of Air Canada domestic flights. 15% off of flights in this country if you're non-Canadian and have contributed nothing. These people are coming here and bringing third world problems and turning our country into a further third world dystopia. Okay? What happened to having people come here and becoming Canadian? That died a long time ago, apparently. Again, political things aside, 15% off of Air Canada flights. So again, you get to enjoy the country on the taxpayer dime, and you get a discount to do it. But that's not all. You get free tours of places like the Alaspany Rock Art Dinosaur Provincial Park, Explorers Bus, Canmore, Nordic Ski Pass, etc., etc. You also get volunteering opportunities to build community connections, educational resources, long-term membership as well that is having evolving yearly benefits, and access to hidden gems, venues, parks, beaches, and cultural spaces. Great. That's what we need here in Canada. Anyway, who pays for this app? So let's check out the app itself. You have to go on your phone to actually get full access to it, but let's go on the website that is provided. Welcome to Canoo.ca. Look at that. Folks looking at paintings. It's an absolute joke. As well, these companies are complicit in it. You get free entry to over 2,000 of Canada's best experiences, VIP, cultural access, discounted tickets to the biggest events in the country. How to become a member? Check if you're eligible. Permanent resident, new Canadian citizen. That gets to do this. Not you, Canada. I want to show you something that's also disgusting about this. This is getting advertised all over on the internet. So you've got it in different languages. This is some probably Mandarin, Canoe Pass on Instagram. You've also got it in what I can only assume is Punjabi or something of that as well. There they advertise it. It's just a copy and paste Instagram. They probably have it for other languages. We're going to jump into something that I find to be absolutely beyond disgusting. And that is when you click on their link tree, you see here, share a canoe with friends and win money. Win money? What do you mean win money? Well, check this out. You can literally get $100 a month if you are referring this app to other people who are non-Canadian. So when Canadians can't afford pharmacare, again, some people are on the verge of death because of pills they can't get for strokes and heart, and these things are around $100 a month. We're giving an additional $100 a month to refugees and asylum seekers to refer other refugees and asylum seekers to this app, which rips off the Canadian people. Absolutely disgusting. But let's go to further Canada Times. Canada makes it easier for Hong Kongers to stay and work in Canada. Paul Chang, Parliamentary Secretary, Paul Chang, of course, of Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion, blah, 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 Unionville announced on behalf of the Honorable Sean Fraser, who is as well out here pumping this. Thinking of exploring Canada this summer? How about that should be thinking of exploiting Canada this summer? Through the Canadian app Canoo, new citizens and permanent residents get free admissions to over 1,400 destinations across the country. It's an absolute slap in your face. But again, let's talk about who is paying for it and how much we are paying for it. You pay for it and I pay for it. Folks coming here don't pay for it. So who runs the Canoo app? First and foremost, the Institute for Canadian Citizenship, ICC, which is a BS nonprofit run by Paul Martin liberals. They might not run it anymore, but they sure as hell started it. And who pays for it from the Canadian government? Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, the IRCC. The IRCC funds Canoo via its settlement program, the $1.1 billion a year that it gets. They give about 0.3% of their funding to the Canoo app, which is nuts. So they get about $1 to $3 million a year for 750,000 newcomers. The total funding over the 15 years that this app has been around, by the way, this ain't new. I just found it. This total funding has been $45 million just for the app. So the app alone is $45 million that we've paid to give out. Who can even make up the amount that is cost the Canadian taxpayer through these benefits to these people? It's just nuts. But again, don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Keep going to work. Keep paying your taxes. Keep being a sheep. Just be a good Canadian and shut up. This should cause a revolt. This app alone should cause a revolt. And you know what's funny I want to mention? I have brought this up for months to Conservative Party members who I won't yet name, but they're very popular, ones I used to respect very deeply. Because, of course, why would I bring this up to the NDP or the Liberals? They're the ones making this happen. And nothing. Crickets. I've sent them emails. I've called them. I've spoken with campaign managers. I've spoken with office managers. All I get is lip service, and we get no results. So you need to call your local Conservative MP and ask them what the hell is going on and why the hell they aren't doing anything about this. But nonetheless, I digress. Let's get into the available online funding reports that the Canoo app gives us. So they have hidden most of their declarations, but we can see that in 2021 to 2022, they got $1.89 million in government grants, which is disgusting. In the following year, they got $2 million. And then last year, they got $3.7 million. So not only are we funding them to the tunes of millions of dollars, but every year that number is going up. And let's go through, before we get off of this, let's go through the totals since inception. So the burden to the taxpayer that the ICC, the Institute for Canadian Citizenship, has been since 2005 till now. So 2005, $1.1 million, 2006, $3 million, 2008, it went down. Thank God it did, but it, again, didn't stay like that for long. 224,000, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and 15, 224,000. There's Conservatives for you. And then in 2016, the funding jumps back up, 1.1 million, 1.1 million in 2017, 2018, 1.1 million, 2019, 1.1 million, 2020, 1.1 million, 2021 to 2022, 1.89 million, 2022 to 2023, 2 million, 2023 to 2024, 3.7 million, and 2024 to 2025, average estimate from the numbers from before till now is about 1.1 million. So in total, the ICC has received close to $20 million. So the ICC gets $20 million, the Canoo app gets $14 million, and you get screwed. And here we are in Canada with a fourth Liberal term, with election fraud everywhere. And we are just ripping the Canadian taxpayer off. And the Canadian taxpayer does nothing but says, "Thank you, master. Give me another." When will Canadians wake up? I hope you learning about the Canoo app today wakes you up. I hope you end up in the street protesting. There's nothing short of protesting will get anything done. Unfortunately, most Canadians have lost their backbone because of the War Measures Act that was enacted the last time that we tried to stand up for ourselves. But living on your knees is not worse than dying on your feet. And that, unfortunately, is where we are at in Canada. It's time to wake up and understand it's over. The life that you think you live, it's over. We are getting ripped off and we are getting taken over. And unless you stand up and do something about it, It's going to be so bad by the time you are finally ready that there is nothing you can do about it. And with that being said, good night, patriots and liberals.